You're listening to TJ's One of Us for the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. You can find the team on our Twitter at ANY Podcast. You can also find us on our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. And now, to bring us in, the Jackdaws.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
All right, this is Scott back with the TJ is One of Us podcast with the ANYPD Podcast Network. I'm joined by my now co-host, which feels weird to say, Shane. Shane, how you doing?
It's incredibly welcomed on my end. I just need you to know that. I'm good. Your delay this evening due to, I'm assuming, LA traffic or nice weather or, I don't know, sunshine and rainbows, allowed me the opportunity to finish season 1 of Mindhunter because I was late to that game and, man, was I incorrect. What a damn good show.
Oh, dude, I can't believe you're saying you just started watching it. I recently had the same thought, and I am all in on serial killers and conspiracy theories.
Well, we're white.
The research and all that.
It's like in our DNA now.
Yeah, so I am finishing the first season, very behind like you, and even further behind you. So
it's so good.
Into that. It's
so
great.
Good.
But we are not here to talk about serial killers today. We are here to talk about some Sixers basketball, some Team NBA basketball, and just some general thoughts about news in basketball. So let's get it started here, and we will kick it off with some Team USA talk.
Bad.
Saying they're not good. They're definitely not good. So I had said to you before the show, I had done my notes for this on, I think, Sunday or Monday, and they start with Team USA is beating everybody, which is no longer the case because Team USA has lost 2 consecutive games.
How is it not your first clue when Furkan Korkmaz and that dog shit team took them to what? Was it double overtime? I don't even remember now.
I think it was double overtime.
That's kind of our sign.
It's a harsh sign, but as an American, I like to be ignorant to things that happened in the past. So I like to think
that's fair.
We were just better than everyone. And even though we talk trash about Team USA when they lost to Australia previously, it doesn't matter. I still was looking positive and was all pumped to be able to watch the game, see them win a gold medal, maybe talk a little shit to my coworker who's French. And I did not get to do that because we lost to France 79-89 yesterday. Did you get to see any of that game or?
Yeah, not great.
Yeah.
Definitely not great. You could, I don't know. It's international basketball, such a different game, and you can tell the disconnect by players who don't ordinarily play with each other. And it's weird to me because half of that team is Celtics, and that's incredibly rewarding to me when spatial issues on the court or as a result of Celtics that can't communicate. So in a sense, I'm not too pissed. Gotta be honest.
Yeah, we got to look at the bright side here. I mean, the Celtics did all look terrible. The entire country was depending on them to bring us home a gold medal, which we just deserve at this point in basketball, and they blew it. So I believe they had broken a 58-game win streak or something similar to that in FIBA play, or 42 games, some incredibly ridiculous number considering we don't play FIBA basketball as a country very often.
Yes. And
the Celtics are to blame for it. They should now be America's least favorite team.
Yes.
And we have Greg Popovich to thank for that because he helped lead them to lose the victory or to lose the game. Which I'm a little concerned about. I like Pop. I don't.
I was just about to say, you really can't. You can't judge Pop. He did have a dog shit roster.
It's not his fault. So we lost to France 79-89. We lost to Serbia 94-89. Serbia is really good.
Serbia is good.
They were the second best team. They got Jokic in there. I was just looking through some stats here. Brooke Splash Mountain Lopez did not score the entire tournament. He should be disgraced. I don't quite understand how you can play in 5 or 6 basketball games and just not score. Like, when you go out there, and we used to play intramural basketball when we were younger, I mean, you put me out there for 5 games, I don't care how bad, I don't care how small I am, I'm gonna score once by accident. Like, it's just kind of what happens.
100%.
We also had Mason Plumlee playing defense against Nikola Jokic, and Nikola Jokic is the starter on the Nuggets. Mason Plumlee is the backup. So that right there is not going to lend itself to a victory.
No, but it was an interesting watch.
Yeah.
And like you could tell based on-court, just the way that they handled themselves, that they go at each other, which is cool. But not a matchup in dogshit Mason Plumlee's favor, because he is an awful basketball player.
It's not good. He's a decent defender, though. So I do see what you're saying, where, it's an interesting matchup. And I have unfortunately not gotten a chance to watch the Serbia game yet. I'm going to begrudgingly watch it. I mean, I don't know why I'm going to at this point, but I like torturing
Still
myself,
basketball.
Yes, that's true. We'll take what we can get here. And TJ is one of us. So yeah, I mean, the Celtics stink. Kemba Walker started to look a little better, which isn't good for us. We don't want Kemba to be too good this year.
Yeah, he had a nice bounce back game in Serbia.
Donovan Mitchell, he had a pretty good tournament from everything I saw and from everything I read. I don't like that. I like kind of when people are against him and questioning if he's good.
He's not
whole
good.
Rookie. Yeah, exactly. That whole rookie of the year thing against Ben Simmons makes him a mortal enemy of the city. So
Forever.
We got to have him not being successful. We also just were talking about getting rid of Utah as a basketball team before, just because we don't like it there. So it would be against our nature to root for him. So yeah, I mean, I don't have too many more thoughts about Team USA basketball. I am excited that we did make the Olympics, which it's crazy that that's the lone accomplishment that came out of this team, that we qualified for Japan. Because as bad as they are, they almost screwed that up. They lost the next game. So had they lost to Brazil, and I mean, that would have been a tough one. But I mean, they could have lost to Giannis in Greece, or I mean, not Japan or Turkey. Well, they did almost lose to Turkey, actually. They took them to overtime with our boy, the Cork Monster.
Cork.
Yeah. So I mean, this will probably be the last we will talk about USA basketball until the Olympics come up and we get all patriotic and proud and actually have a quality representative team up there.
Yeah, did you see the Colangelo shit?
I did, and that was the most confusing outcome of this entire tournament to me. For what Shane is referencing, Colangelo had basically said, I'm not going to forget who turned us down as a country to go play in this FIBA tournament. In war, you got to stand together, and we're not going to forget the guys who didn't show up, which is bullshit. Yeah, they're just going to play the best 12 guys or 15 guys they can get, and we're going to win and smash everyone.
Exactly. I don't understand where this hard ass attitude is coming now from just higher ups and executives at all across sports. I mean, look how that worked out in Oakland for the Raiders. Be a hard ass, lose a superstar. Not that wasn't going to happen anyway. I mean, conspiracy theory all day, but where the hell's Colangelo getting off with this? We're going to remember, what are you going to not play these guys? Get the hell out of here.
I agree. It's a ludicrous statement. It makes Team USA even more unlikable too, because at this point, so it's so common for stars to have an injury and derail their career or cost themselves tens of millions of dollars going through that. So really, these guys are putting themselves on the line. I mean, Colangelo cannot be having this negative attitude towards them. He needs to be working to incentivize them and entice them to come play and fill them with patriotic spirit, because that's really all you can get these guys to do at this point. I mean, it's just a mind-boggling move. But I mean, Colangelo is just a confusing guy. So I don't know what he's doing here.
Nor do I. And I think it was just one of those things that came out of emotion. You're embarrassed about the product that you've put out there, and how can you not be? I mean, you just referenced the FIBA, what you said, 42 or 48, whatever wins, in a row. it's not easy to sit there and look at the product that you're putting out there and who you're losing against. But still, shut your mouth. Like, it is not the Olympics yet. Like, just calm the hell down.
I agree. But so let's move on a little bit from Team USA basketball talk here. We have spent far too much time on this dog shit team already, and they're done and will not be playing together anymore. But on to possibly the most important. Well, I can't say that; it'd be a little insensitive to our other topics. But one of the most important things that's happened in the last 2 weeks since we've had a show, because we did have a small gap there. I'm not going to act like we didn't. It was purposely planned. We apologize, but we will be consistently recording every week from now on forward. But the ninja style headbands are now banned in the NBA
because nothing fun can remain.
Exactly. So when the press release came out, the NBA had basically said, we let them go on last year and let people wear them because we didn't want to disrupt the flow and cause an issue during the regular season. Which is ridiculous. That's why you put rules in place to disrupt the flow and prevent safety hazards or whatever they're calling this. So you can't do this 6 months or a year after it's started to become a trend, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's absurd.
It's stupid. I mean, give the people what they want. I'm personally a huge fan of it. I think we've talked a little bit about it before. It was one of my favorite things that Jimmy Butler did, was wearing that ninja style headband.
Yes, sir.
Which begs the question: is Jimmy Butler fucked?
I think so.
I mean, is
I think it's kind of the end of
without
him.
This headband? Yeah.
Like, I think he should file a grievance, and he should say, "My head is getting too big. I needed something to contract that size. You've taken that away from me. I got to retire. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm threatening to retire. Miami, trade me."
Absolutely. So, what I think we should do when Jimmy Butler comes back and plays the Sixers the first time is
fan
there
giveaway.
should be exactly. You read my mind. Fan giveaway. We all wear the headband. We chant at him. We boo like Mike Scott once, because Mike Scott had come out a couple weeks ago and said
thirstiest athlete in Philly.
Back. Absolutely. And we boo his ass. But while we're on the topic of, weird accessories and crazy league rules in the NBA, we're talking Philly basketball here. We have a rich history in changing the clothing culture and, just kind of men's styles in general through players like Allen Iverson, who 100% had a rule created where players were not allowed to show up wearing do-rags or giant chains or crazy clothes because of how he dressed. And that still has such a crazy impact on the game.
It's crazy how many stars, like, who are now retiring. Like, Dwayne Wade has been on record so many times saying he selected number 3 because of Allen Iverson. He wanted cornrows because of Allen Iverson. He based his game early on in Marquette off Allen Iverson. Like, this guy, he created the image of the NBA for our generation.
I agree. It was a very confusing thing for our grandfather, especially. Do you remember when Pop would talk about how he didn't like Allen Iverson because of how he dressed and stuff? But it's hard to not like
but
the
that's
guy
amazing.
For what he did. Yeah, it's an interesting topic. If you've never talked to Pop about that, I suggest you do so. We were a little younger at that point when it was coming up, so I didn't fully understand it. But he had an interesting take on all that. And for listeners, our grandfather is 90 years old, so he's allowed to think whatever he wants at this point.
Yeah, that's a rule.
Yeah, I agree. No one can
post 83, whatever you want.
Yeah. Agreed. But so while we're talking, trends that the NBA has completely ruined for no particular reason, what do you think players could come up with this year that would not only piss the NBA front office off, but also look cool as shit and have every kid in, elementary school on up to us at nearing the age of 30 just going out to buy? What trends do you think they could have out there on the court?
All right, so I've put way too much thought and effort into this particular category. I found that image is such a more fun topic than the off season itself. So I went back and forth with a handful of things. So I'm going to give you my first one. Are you aware of the fact that there are many people right now, walking the streets of LA, walking the streets of Philadelphia, where you are currently living and where I am currently living, wearing glasses that have no actual prescription.
Oh
They're
yeah.
doing this because hipsters rule the world now. I want a Kareem-styled goggle that at least one player on every team is wearing, full out hipster framed for every single game.
Oh, I could get into that.
But it has to be the least likely person. So for the 76ers, it needs to be winner of the Tyrone Hill Ugliest Philadelphia Athlete Award of this current season, Mariel Shyok. He's got to come out there with his one tooth and his weirdly shaped bald head, and he's got to have the hipster goggles to support and complete that image. That's where I'm at.
What a look. If you know what, if he's not wearing that on the court, he needs to wear that every night to the club where
Everywhere else.
You know that guy parties. Yeah. If I see him out there, he better have those hipster glasses on.
Oh,
what
yeah.
a look.
Also, I love Mariel Shyok, so if he ever listens to this podcast, sorry, I'm sure you have more than one tooth.
Sup.
So that's one of the ones I got. What do you got?
So are you aware, and I think I may have texted you about this, but Odell Beckham wore a $200,000 or $300,000 watch for an NFL football game. And when the league got angry about that, because you probably shouldn't be wearing a watch when you play football, he pretty much said, they can't tell me what to do. I'm going to wear this regardless.
He's such a problem.
I was thinking, what if we got a player out there who had just a gigantic, bulky watch in the NBA every single time, and he bragged about it, and it was a sponsorship deal. So we got Rolex throwing out a player, we got our boy Zhaire out there. He's checking in. Maybe they give a little quick shout out in the crowd. We get Zoom off talking about Rolexes and how everyone should buy one. Boom, he's out there, this giant clunky watch.
I'm here for the Zoom off talk.
Oh yeah, maybe he clocks someone in the face with it by accident, and we get a little blood out of the deal. Maybe it's not the most fitting thing, but it would look cool as shit.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'll be honest. When you began, because you did text me about this, but you didn't tell me what your specific idea was, so I wasn't sure if you're going the watch route. I was like, I know Scott. I feel like he's going to be a little absurd. I know that your connection to like the UFC and things like that. I swore I thought you were about to say we need a People's Champ belt out here that the team captain needed to wear, and they just had to wear some absurd like $850,000 championship belt. Can you imagine LeBron running out? I actually can imagine LeBron. He's such an ass. But it would be Russell Westbrook, actually. I think it would be Westbrook that would do it. He's absurd. He's the Cam
Newton.
And
it would be some crazy Technicolor thing that no one really liked. And he would be wearing it for games, or
also would support the goggles.
Oh, he would be the one trying to wear goggles, and the rest of the team would be like, Russ, this ain't your look, dog. You're not pulling this one off. You're way too ugly for this.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. So what else you got over there?
All right, so I got two more here. You kind of hinted at it earlier, and I'm pretty sure. Well, I'm not pretty sure. I'm positive they can't do this, but so obviously we talked about before NBA Street, right? Mm-hmm. NBA Street and NBA Street Volume 2 for PlayStation 2, I think it was. Maybe the last time I actually legitimately played PlayStation for any particular reason. I want the secondary team color of whatever uniform jersey that they select that night. I want whichever guy is the most Caucasian. I want them to have a do-rag and a headband over it.
Yes.
How awesome would that be?
It would be amazing.
Can you imagine Raul Neto running out there in a do-rag?
I'm absolutely there for the do-rag idea, especially on someone that should not be wearing a do-rag.
Yes.
Which also brings up the question, do people wear do-rags anymore? Maybe I'm just not connected enough to hip-hop culture. Okay.
Yeah, LeBron still wears it to cover up the fake added hair that was put up in the front there. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. And it's a quality look. It should have never went away to begin with.
I agree. I wish I could pull a do-rag off. I'm
honest.
not going to act like I haven't worn one before.
I was just going to say.
I've definitely put a do-rag on before, and no matter if I was 10 or 28 or 29 like I am now, every time I do it, I look in the mirror and go, nope, you still can't do this.
Not happening. Absolutely not.
To a similar sense, I actually was thinking of kind of just a straight up white guy biker bandana. And what I was
Oh
thinking of
yeah.
that is, have you ever seen there's an episode of Boy Meets World where Sean and Corey are on a road trip, and Sean, the bad boy, he has a bandana on, and Corey leans down, pulls out a bandana, and Sean goes, Corey, you got to take that off. There can only be one bandana guy. And he's like, what do you mean only one bandana guy? He's like, there's only one bandana guy, and that's me. Take it off. So,
On
similar
this show,
to,
you have referenced Full House and Boy Meets World. You are 100% a 90s child.
I am a product of the 90s, and I spent a lot of my childhood watching TV. So that's where most of my references come from. That or obscure books that no one else would read, and that's a little too nerdy to get into for this podcast.
I respect it regardless. We're trying to change our culture of the listeners here.
There you go. So yeah, do you have, I think you said you had one more, right?
Which one? I did do it right. Yeah. So the other one that I had, and this is only specifically because I just went to the movies a couple weeks ago, and I can't get the ridiculousness of Elton John's shoes with the wings on them out of it. And I think that like the person on the team with like the least amount of hop should wear them, and like hopefully that adds like, I don't know, +3 to their NBA 2K19 and 2K20 bounce rating. Like, I think that's important.
So in history, who would be the player that you would most want to see out there with wings on their shoes?
The Big Three version of Glenn Big Baby Davis. That's the one for me right now.
Yeah. I was thinking Yao Ming, and we give him the do-rag on the game too.
That might have saved that man's feet. It would have made him lighter. Oh my God. Why didn't we have a podcast when we were 6?
Seriously.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. 7, 6, and 13 surgeries to your feet. All we needed to do was talk about it.
Yeah, and you know what? If Yao Ming, if you're out there and you stumble across this podcast, please give us a
literally
shout out.
Stumble.
And, more shots at the guy's feet, man. Damn.
Yeah, it's quite insensitive. My apologies.
But yeah, I would love to get Yao on the pod. I want to know what he is doing now. I may have to delve into that a bit after we get off the air here and see if he is just a hero in China, or
he's probably coaching the Beijing Ducks and new champion captain over there, Jeremy Lin.
Oh yeah, wow. What a duo. I mean, they're just got to be two of the most iconic Chinese basketball players ever, right?
I think they are the two most iconic Chinese basketball players. They have
to be. I mean, I think Stephon Marbury might still be the most iconic Chinese basketball player.
That's true. He also dropped like 60 over there on a regular basis after his NBA career.
Yeah, that was definitely something. There's a solid ESPN kind of 30 for 30 short ass thing, or E60, something like that on him. It's a great listen. I strongly suggest anyone who has not seen that, check that out on YouTube or something. So a bit more on the serious side here, and this is what I was hinting at before when I said, we have some topics that are slightly more important to talk about that we begrudgingly have to talk about as fans down at the Eagles game, who did not come out looking too well in this, in my opinion. So there was a Mike Scott issue. For those of you who don't know or who haven't read about it yet, it happened over the weekend when the Eagles beat the Redskins and gave us quite the scare. But the best, or the biggest news story that came out of that, in my opinion, wasn't Carson Wentz looking good or us being excited that football is back. It was that Mike Scott, who is a large Redskins fan, was seen in a fight, and there was a video of it, and it really looks bad for our boy Mike. We're definitely members of the Hive here, and I feel bad, assuming in the beginning that it was all on him and that he needs to better behave himself. Until I read a little further that people were, throwing some racial slurs his way, which is never acceptable. It was a large group of almost exclusively white guys there that allegedly were saying some nasty racial things to him. Then there was a crowd chanting "asshole" at him, because none of them recognized he was Mike Scott. They just recognized him as a man in a Redskins jersey. And then there was a fight, and Mike Scott got pulled out of there by some of his boys, but it didn't look good for anyone. hearing more about it and reading more about it now, it seems almost Riley Cooper-esque in my opinion. It was just bad. We can't have things like this going on anywhere in the city, let alone down at huge sporting events. It's a terrible look, and I don't get why people continue to be racist. It makes no sense to me. Shane, have you had a chance to read about this? I'm going to assume you have at this point.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. One of our guys, AMY Pete, with whom we still don't know his true identity, he's operating under the complete sense of anonymity here. He's got an article, or she, whatever it is, has an article coming out tomorrow, I believe tomorrow, on this, kind of debating which side was at fault. And I believe entirely, and I'm kind of previewing this for all of you, nobody wins when everybody's wrong. And everyone involved in this could have done better. And, it's disappointing from, a fan base. We try to distance ourselves from the things that were completely out of our control. Like you talk about, like, you don't understand racism, and it's because we haven't lived through it in the way that people in the, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and whatever live through it. Like it hits differently for us, but we're trying to distance ourselves as 29 and 30-year-old men here from a culture in the vet and 700 section that we never experienced and that we were never part of. So it's hard for us to distance ourselves from something that we don't truly understand. And the only thing that we know is that we go to the games. If you and I were to go to an Eagles game, we behave because we're fucking rational adults. And when shit like this happens, it does reflect poorly, and it immediately sets us back, and because the global and national media is going to have a field day with it. And you have to be and know better as that group of guys who allegedly got there at like 4:30 in the morning to begin tailgating. Like, to me, it's opening day of the football season. I mean, this is coming from someone who doesn't drink, so like I understand that I'm not exactly qualified to speak on this, but like, if it's the opening day of football season, I'd kind of like to, I don't know, remember the fucking game. Like, I don't need to go down there and get completely hammered and obliterated to the point that I can't recognize an incredibly, like, I don't know, integrated athlete into the city right now. And Mike Scott, I'm not saying he's a superstar by any stretch, but like, it's Mike fucking Scott. You know who he is if you're in Philadelphia and you're a sports fan. And these guys, 4:30 in the morning, they showed up there. They were completely gone when this actually started to happen. It's just embarrassing, And then if you're Mike Scott, first of all, to the people who have been sitting there and saying he needs to know better, don't wear a Redskins jersey, go fuck yourself. That's absurd. That man's from Washington. That is his team. Like, that's acceptable to me. That's authentic to me. If anything, we should respect that. You can razz them. You mentioned people were chanting like asshole and stuff. I don't care. Like, yeah, you can jokingly, sarcastically chant asshole. Hopefully Mike Scott has the wherewithal to just play into that a little bit, maybe just point at the name on the back of the jersey, fluff up the chest piece there a little bit, and just let everyone know, yeah, I'm representing the Redskins today, whatever. But like, as a public figure, you have to know better than to get in that. The only other side of this thing that I have is the fact that when someone begins stating racial obscenities and things like that, I personally believe that whomever those are being thrown at should have a complete, and I'm glad the Sixers are not fining him or releasing him or anything like that. But yeah, Mike Scott should be allowed to punch you in the face at least once. Like, you don't get to do shit like that and act that kind of an asshole. Like, so the whole situation, ugly, up and down. It was just not good. Not a good look for the city. Not a good look for Mike Scott.
Not good at all. And my kind of last thought on it was, and you'd hit a big topic here, is obviously there's a bunch of drinking going on. It's opening weekend for the Eagles and stuff. People are showing up tailgating at 4:30. Cool. Go there, have a good time. Black out if you want to. It doesn't even bother me. The thing that bothers me most is there was probably a group in the video, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 guys there who are all adults. Do I believe that, maybe one of them in the group is racist or whatever? Yeah, of course. That's going to happen. I mean, it's a statistics thing, right? There's probably just going to be someone there who's racist. And it's not the first guy who says something, it's the rest of the crowd that follows suit. That's what bothers me there. So you're telling me that there wasn't one guy who could have taken a little bit of a step back, and no matter how drunk he was, but realize, oh crap, this is something that's very bad. And he needs to step in, isolate his buddy, pull him aside, and just be like, no, we don't do this. You don't even have to apologize or anything. Just kind of, break up the situation. Yeah. So I'm disappointed that there wasn't one person who stood up there. It looks poorly upon us as a city. It wasn't the best move for Mike Scott either, but I think it's just something, again, that clearly I do not understand, nor would I ever try to understand, when someone tries to throw some kind of racially insensitive slur at you as a black man or any other race. You have to just see red at that point, and not that it's completely excusable to act violent or fight or whatever, but it's more excusable. I agree with you. I mean, you can't really blame Mike Scott when someone's saying something like that to him.
You have to defend yourself in some respect, and I totally understand the whole, the best defense in some of these actions is truly to walk away, but you can say some incredibly hateful things out there to someone that, may strike a chord differently to them than they would to anyone else on the planet. Like, you just don't know. You got to be smarter. I have to be more respectful to some degree. It's a mess. One of the things that bothers me most is the fact that, and I mean, you mentioned it, neither one of us exactly wanted to come on here and talk about this particular kind of a topic. Why would anyone want to come on and hope to talk about a topic such as difficult as race and things of the sort, or Philadelphia fans just, acting like jackasses? I hate right now the need to make stories bigger, specifically because they're ugly. And there were several stories within here that's your distance now from like the Philadelphia media, but we have the Philadelphia fans who are assholes, and that's traveling across national media and within our city right now. And then Mike Scott didn't handle himself in the way that a public figure that we would expect a public figure here in Philadelphia or any city to handle themselves. That's national media and that's local media. Then there was also a young photographer who she's up and coming, and one of the radio stations here, one of the morning show hosts, she was the one who was with Mike Scott that day. And he kind of, not attacked, but like, now that's a story too. And now that's blowing up. And now this young girl, unfortunately has to answer questions in the news and the media and is being attacked on social media. Like, that's just not shit that needs to happen ever. So now you have all these different lives that are affected right now and all these different images, both locally and nationally. And it could have been avoided. It just could have been avoided. And that's what's so fucked to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. The whole thing is just so unnecessary. Go to the football game, get drunk, have a good time, eat some ridiculous food, go see the Birds win, and then go home. That's it. That's all that needs to happen. We don't need to drag our city's reputation down and fuel the fire that we're assholes that threw snowballs at Santa Claus, with even worse things than throwing snowballs at Santa Claus, like topics where we're being racially insensitive and racist. And yeah, it's a shame that things like this happen, but hey, we live in a world where not everyone's perfect, so this stuff is going to keep happening. It's a matter of how we bounce back and handle ourselves. So I'm hoping that there's some better behavior. I'm hoping there's a little more control, maybe at the next tailgate or something to stop this kind of behavior. But more than anything, I hope people just behave and act like adults.
Yeah, that's it. And like we said earlier, there's nothing wrong with sitting there and giving somebody a hard time for
Absolutely.
Representing the incoming city. Like that's what sports is. You sit there that's who every town is, or in some capacity should be when it comes to sports. Well, at least not. It's a fake city. Everything about it's fake. You're not even a real person right now. I'm just talking to myself in the mirror. It's awkward.
That's some Fight Club shit right there, Shane.
I ruined the end of that movie for Stephanie. Did I ever tell you that?
No.
Side tangent. Sorry. I know that I'm just having a conversation, Shane talking to Scott, and other people have to listen. That's strange. But my girlfriend, she had never seen Fight Club. And I was like, how have you never seen this movie? This is absurd to me. And it's also one of my favorite authors. One of Scott. You said you liked him too, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, I like Chuck Palahniuk.
Yeah, Chuck Palahniuk's fantastic. When he's good, he's great. But stories for other times. So I sat there and I'm trying to explain this to her, and she's like, just has this look of just confusion and disinterest, and it pissed me off that like I'm like my brain must have just seen red in that particular time. So I was like, look, it's crazy. He's this guy, but he's also this guy, and like it'll all make sense. Well, I fucked the whole ending up. So also just did it again for anyone listening to this podcast. Sorry, Scott also kind of did that 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, I did as well. I mean,
first of all, if you didn't see
alert,
Fight Club,
yeah,
you're an ass. Like,
yeah, go see Fight Club. Even though we ruined the ending for you, still go see it. Great movie. And also, if a movie's more than 10 years old, you don't have to say spoiler alert.
All right, I like that. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to live my life by that.
Yeah, good. The book, movie, TV show, anything is 10 years or older, you don't got to say spoiler alert. We're not doing that.
Fair. I like it.
So let's get back into some basketball conversation here. So this is now an NBA rife with big twos. We're no longer full of super teams or big threes. And it was weird how this all played out. Everyone just organically decided to go to basketball team or to other teams and have one other superstar with them. It's incredible. I'm real happy about the fact that we get to sit here and make a list of the top 7 big twos in the league, as opposed to the top 3 best teams, or assuming the Golden State's just going to win again like last year, even though they didn't. It's more fun for us as members of the media. It's more fun for just any general fan. It's more fun for everyone. So
100%.
We are going to rank the top 7 big twos in the NBA. Shane, I'll let you kick it off. Who do you have ranked number 7?
All right, so number 7, I have the greatest backcourt that never was in Philadelphia, Markelle Fultz and MCW.
Okay.
I'm fucking with you. I do not. I have this specifically. So I talked to you before we got on air. By the way, slight spoiler here. I'm going to give something sarcastic in between a lot of these because I have a bunch of sarcastic stuff. But when I built my list, I was building this list specifically for this coming season alone. And selecting this one gave me so much fit, but I'm going to stick by it. So number 7 for me is going to be the big two in Brooklyn, KD and Kyrie. If Brandon Brooks at 330-some pounds can come back in 9 months from an Achilles, I fail to see that KD doesn't see the court at some point this season. I know at 6'11", it's unlikely, but an offensive lineman in the NFL is doing it right now. I kind of think it's going to happen. I think it's important for Brooklyn to get him on the court at least a little bit this season. So I'm going to go with Brooklyn for what could possibly be 3 to 6 weeks of this dynamic duo.
Yeah, I have them ranked a little bit higher. I won't spoil quite where I have them yet. But I was reading a little more into the Durant injury because we've actually gone on record here saying that we're both kind of doubters of Durant at this point, that he'll come back and be the same player. So apparently the Achilles tear that he had is on his non-dominant foot. I can't remember off the top of my head if it was his right or left one, but whichever one it was his non-dominant foot. And players that have Achilles tears on their non-dominant foot, like Kobe Bryant, I think Dominic Wilkins actually had the same injury a long, long time ago as well, come back, and they're not the same, but they're not shells themselves. They do come back with a similar kind of athleticism, maybe not explosiveness right away, but reading that article gave me a little bit of hope for KD coming back and being as good as he used to be on the court. Now off the court, that guy's a different story. He's an asshole and is not handling himself well right now.
Certainly not.
I think he will come back, and hopefully it'll be this year. So you had said it'd be 3 to 6 weeks, right?
In the back end of the season,
in the back end of the season. Okay, so maybe he could slide in and make an impact for the Nets in the playoffs.
Exactly. And I do think, and I hate Kyrie Irving. Like I've never liked him, but I do recognize that like a refreshed and re-energized Kyrie, that's a pretty damn good basketball player. So I think he alone carrying an already like deep in terms of like they're kind of like what the Raptors were last year. Like they have a lot of really, really nice role players over there who just fit well, or at least they did last year. So how they fit with Kyrie, we'll see. But if the two balance out okay, I think that they can kind of, stave off and do okay until KD comes back. Hopefully this year for Brooklyn, hopefully not for the Sixers, but they're going to be tough to beat.
They are, and going back on what I just said as a Sixers fan, now I don't know if I want KD to come back. So
no, not yet. Let us get one.
Number 7, yeah, I agree. At number 7, I had James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Yeah, I have them ranked really, really low. And the reason I have them so low here is I'm worried about how they play together. I'm worried about how Russell Westbrook comes out and handles being second fiddle to James Harden. And also, I'm worried about the fact that both of them are having off seasons where they're openly speaking out about being underrated in the media. Russell Westbrook was just talking about his NBA 2K rating being too low, which I kind of agree with. But they both seem to be playing with a chip on their shoulder, which doesn't lend itself to being new teammates that need to share the ball together. They're still going to be dominant and they're going to be incredible, but I don't think that they're going to play as well together as the other 6 people that we have ranked in this list.
I can't wait to argue and challenge that one later.
Okay.
Wow. Well, good for you. Because I hate both players too.
It's not a matter of hate, right? I actually do like both of them, and I know that you do not. I just don't. So when we're ranking 2 players that are going to play together and have the biggest impact, I think the Rockets as a team are decent, and I think Westbrook and Harden's kind of dynamic is not necessarily going to make them entirely better. I'm excited to see it, and probably going to end up eating my words on that one, but I stand by it right now. So, Shane, who you got at number 6?
It's 6. I have same type of thing as I have at number 7 right now. I have Golden State, Steph and Clay. So I've thought a lot on this, and I actually think that that D'Angelo Russell is going to hold things down well enough over there. So I've been back and forth with how he's going to fit, and he had such a good year last year. And I think it's gone so underrated, and I feel like that's going to lessen the pressure for Clay to come back immediately. But when he does, I feel like it's just going to fit so fucking well. So I can't slide them up too high because it's the same type of thing. He's a midseason at the earliest, but I kind of feel like D'Angelo Russell, if he continues the upward trend, can actually allow Clay to take a little bit more time if needed. So it may be the same situation where you get maybe 6 to 8 weeks out of him as opposed to 3 to 6 for Durant there, but it'll be impactful nevertheless.
So I actually had the exact same thing. Here I had Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, D'Angelo Russell, all kind of lumped in together as a big 2 because you don't know who's going to be the biggest 2 out of that. Obviously, Klay is out for, at least the first half of the season, if not the whole season, depending on how he recovers. But I'm expecting D'Angelo Russell to step in there and play surprisingly well off the ball with Steph, or both play on the ball. I'm not quite sure how they're going to do it. I'm excited for it, and I'm also not counting out Draymond Green there. I mean, he's been a pivotal part of that team for the last 7 years or something similar to that. And him and Steph and Clay play together so well that it's impossible to count them out. But like you said, Clay is hurt, and you can't rank them much higher than 6. I had played around having them as high as 4 in my list, and then I crumpled the paper and threw it out the window and said, I can't do that.
So I toyed with having them 5 or 6 or completely out of this top 7 that we were discussing for the very thing that you said. I do feel like they're so well balanced in their stars. They're not a true like big 3 or big 4 or anything like that. But I do feel as though more often than not, it's one of those guys going off, getting a 35, getting 40, and then another guy with a respectable 20, 21, 22, and then Draymond's his typical stat filler, type of thing. And I actually think that playing with Steph is going to elevate and help, evolve D'Angelo Russell's game, making him that much more valuable for the inevitable trade that's going to come. We still don't know where, but I think it's such a smart fit now. And I'm going to be really curious to see how they make it work.
Yeah, I'm curious as well. And the more and more we talk about these lists ranking the NBA or the off-season moves, I think I personally have gone from just confused by the D'Angelo Russell move to intrigued to just captivated at this point. I need to know how it plays out, and I'm excited to watch the Warriors again. It's weird what Kevin Durant leaving has done to reinvigorate my love, or love isn't the right word for it. I mean, I only have love for one team, the Sixers, but I mean, I'm just captivated by him. I need to know what's going to happen. I'm going to be watching the Warriors once again here, and I don't feel bad about that, like I probably have for the last year or two.
Yeah, it's totally different with Durant not there. It just felt cheap, and
that's the right word. Yeah.
Yeah, it just Durant and Golden State became the NBA's villain, and they in a snap of the finger became the Patriots and what they are. They are the evil empire to everything in the NBA for the last 5 years. And it happened seemingly kind of overnight. Like I don't know. I could talk about the freaking Warriors all night. So we'll save that for when we inevitably will have to talk about the Warriors quite often.
We definitely will. All right. So we both had the same for 6. Who do you have for 5?
For 5, I have Victor Oladipo and the process rejects. I merged TJ McConnell and Jakar Sampson. I feel like they're honestly like a joint MVP candidates right there. Like that is how good that Indiana dynamic trio could be. But no, I went with Ben and Joe. I would love to put our 76er duo up higher. However, I feel not unlike I do with Golden State. I feel like there's wealth to be spread here, especially in year one of the 33-year-old Al Horford there, and in year one of new contract Tobias. I think Ben is actually going to provide the bulk of this season for us. I think he's going to kind of carry the load in terms of star power. And I think that's only because I think Joe's it's going to be an adjustment for him learning this load management and what the new NBA kind of is. So I have our 76ers coming in at 5 there.
Okay. So I have Durant and Kyrie coming in at 5 here. And the reason why is similar to what you had said before, that I think Kyrie is going to come back and play like a madman this year and, forget a little bit about what happened with him at the end of his career as a Celtic. And I do think, speaking about that article again, I do think Durant's going to come back and make somewhat of an impact this year. I do not want to play the Nets in the playoffs, largely because Durant will be back and they'll be able to pop him into games. And I think not be super worried at that point about, his longevity. I think they're going to be able to pop him in for, 20, 25 minutes a game in the playoffs and make a serious impact. I'm strictly basing that ranking off of them making the playoffs and him coming back for that. He will make somewhat of an impact during the regular season, but I think that's kind of going to be him testing the waters and figuring out how good his ankle is or his Achilles is. And once he's comfortable with it, I think he's just going to be good to go. So yeah, I have them in there. I have Kyrie and Durant in there at 5.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I said, me having them at 7, I struggle with that one as well. But it is truly all how soon KD comes back and how well and effective he is.
All right, let's move on to number 4 here.
Number 4, I have Giannis and Thanasis Antetokounmpo. Because that's fantastic that you can have Giannis and Thanasis, I think is how you say his brother's name. I don't even fucking know.
I'm not even going to attempt it. Every Greek person in the world will be upset.
I will not even lie. So part of why it took me a few minutes to get up here, outside of the fact that I was watching Mindhunter, was I did YouTube Giannis saying his own name slowly for us Americans who can't speak anything other than fucking English. But this is not actually my thing, and Chris Middleton's not a real basketball player, so they are not. Milwaukee is not in here for me. At number 4 is LeBron and AD. In theory, they should be higher. When you have the Michael Jordan and Kobe of this generation and LeBron, I don't see it. I hate the guy. I do see it. I can't even deny it. I just can't stand him. But AD, I'm starting to come more and more around on. And I think this is from talking with you. He is just that damn good. I just worry about those two personalities together. So on talent alone, I think they crack this top 5, and I have them at 4. If they work out together personality-wise, I could see them skyrocketing to number 1. So they're a tough one to figure out. They're going to be a league pass watch for sure.
They definitely will be. I have them ranked a little bit higher, so I'm not going to go too much into why I think they're good, but I would have been shocked if you had them ranked any higher. I thought you were going to try to leave them out of this list, which is damn near impossible.
I couldn't do it.
The only more shocking thing would have been you throwing the Milwaukee Bucks in there, which is another team you do not respect Giannis. So that was almost as big of a shock to me.
Well, they're not in it, so there you go.
I might have to get you a shirt that says "Respect Giannis" on it that you will not wear and keep in the bottom of your drawer forever.
I can't. He's the same player as Ben Simmons, but gets respect. It's ridiculous.
All right, number 4, I have Dame Lillard and my boy CJ McCollum.
Right.
Only reason I have them ranked this low, and it feels weird saying that the 4th best duo in the league at this point between two mid-major guys is low, is because they have a lot to prove this year. This is the year that, and I can't even remember where I had them ranked. I think I have them as the 4th best team in the West. They have a lot to prove together, and they have proved quite a bit up to this point, but I'm worried how they match up against some of the other big twos that are now present in the West, and I don't think that they'll come out as the better twosome compared to a LeBron and AD, or a Kawhi and Paul George, or almost even a Harden and a Westbrook. It's going to be an interesting one. I know I obviously have them ranked lower, but I'm curious to see how they match up against other people. And Dame seems to show up in a huge way when he's put in any kind of adversity, but they don't always seem to do it together. And that's the only reason I have them this low. They seem to pass off, who's got the hot hand night after night. We're going to need them to cooperate a little bit more together. I would love to eat my words on this one more than anything and look back at, the year of 2019, 2020 basketball and see them as the best twosome in the NBA. But I just don't think they're there quite yet.
So I have them at 3. So we'll roll right into my 3rd, so I can not even challenge you. It's more so for me, they both play so well together and don't have that like star ego personality that you would struggle to see right now, and what we're struggling to picture in terms of what Harden and Westbrook could do together. But these are two guys that do genuinely respect, as you said, the hot hand. Yes. But to me, they're both incredibly clutch. Maybe not necessarily, well, Dame obviously at the end of games, but just situationally throughout the game, and that breaks down even to defense. And their switchability out there on the floor, they're so smooth. They are such a fun league pass team to watch. We've talked about that before too. I fail to see as a duo that we've mentioned so far that could provide more than what those two players can provide on any given night on both ends of the floor. So for me, they're sitting at 3, but it's tight.
So yeah, I have Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid just flipped at 3 here. So we can just talk about all of this collectively together. But I agree. Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum are a joy to watch because they play basketball the right way. When I'm sitting down and I have, my nephew watching a game or something, there are two people that I would point out and say, Colin, you need to watch them. See how CJ handles the ball, see what he does off the ball when Dame's handling it. They do play extremely well together. And damn, now I'm almost talking myself out of having them this low, and I almost wish I had them ranked higher because of just how much love I have for CJ and Dame. I can't change a ranking mid-rank here. I think that would be a bit ridiculous, even for me, who's known to change his rankings from time to time. But I think we can both agree in saying that they might be the most enjoyable duo in here because of the way they play off of one another. And part of that's because they've been playing together for so long, and both of their careers are based off of one another. But I do need to see how they rank up against some of the other big twos to make me completely behind them 150%, as opposed to the 120% I'm behind them right now.
Yeah, I don't think I could say it any better. So for that and everything we stated in the last 60 to 90 seconds, that is why I have your Portland favorites over there in number 3. I blame you. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, I was going to kick in.
So go ahead.
I was going to say I blame you entirely for my number 2 selection here. So my number 2 team is going to be the Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George, and they should be number 1. Like, that's just, you're looking at the best player in the world in Kawhi and a guy who's getting better with age right now in Paul George, and who's finally, in a city that he's kind of obviously had the dream to be playing in since, in the NBA. But they are going to take so many nights off. They are going to load manage both of those guys so often. I don't know. Like, they're obviously a duo, but like, what would you say the over under are in games that they both play? Like, I feel like at least 20, 25 games, one of them is going to be sitting.
Yeah, I was going to set it right at 60. And I think that's a fair number. And, Paul George is come back from his injuries. Kawhi maybe is still hurt, maybe isn't. We haven't fully heard an update on how his health is doing in a bit. But they're so dangerous and so dynamic together. I also have them at 2, so we can just freely talk about this one kind of as a big duo here, right? See what we're doing?
I see that.
Yeah. So I
shameless
agree.
Play on words.
Yeah, it wasn't funny. Nobody at home laughed. But so they are just they seem almost built for each other. The more and more I see pictures of them, because we're starting to get pictures from camp now out on Twitter and Instagram, and the more I see them together, the more I think they're just built for one another. They both play such great defense. They're both so athletic. They both shoot extremely well too. I'm obviously a little worried about Paul George's shoulder and stuff and the load management that they're going through, but God, they're so damn good together, and I'm so excited to see them play. I'm so excited that they're in LA.
Oh God.
Yeah.
How many games are you going to go to this year, Clippers games?
None. It's really expensive to go to Clippers games. And a little kind of dirty secret that I can talk about now is my company has Lakers tickets that are, I wouldn't say courtside, but they're probably like 3-4 rows off the court. So every year when the Lakers play the Sixers, I get to show up there and I get to wear all my Sixers gear and chant for Joel Embiid and try and get Ben Simmons to look at me and all that kind of good stuff. So I will make that as my one appearance to the Staples Center.
You're Elaine.
Yeah, exactly.
You're Elaine. You are wearing the Baltimore Orioles cap at a Mets game.
Yep.
In your company suite. Good for you.
Yeah.
I respect it.
So my favorite thing that had happened was the original owner of our company. The first year I'd come out here, he knew that me and 2 other guys I work with are Philly guys, and he had gotten, a car to drive us to the game, hashtag rich guy stuff. So I was just a kid in a candy store, all pumped up for this game, getting to see Joel come out and play. Pretty sure he dropped like 35 that night, and it was unbelievable. But so when I stepped into the car, he goes, "Oh man, Scott, you don't got any Sixers gear?" And I was like, "No, I do. Can't you see what this shirt is?" And I had my step over shirt on, where it's
oh my God, you had to explain it to your boss.
Ty Lue. Yeah, I had to explain it to him, and he's like, "Oh, what's that?" And I was like, "Didn't you watch the finals in 2000? You know, when I was 9 years old, but I still clearly remember this. And you're a little older than I am. Shouldn't you remember it?" And he's like, "Oh, well, that's kind of a clever shirt, I guess." And then the
Oh
next two
my
guys that I
god.
work with from Philly stepped on with jerseys on, and you know how we feel about wearing jerseys in public as a
Yeah.
fan. And they got much more praise than I did. And the Lakers fan didn't even realize that I was talking shit to him with my T-shirt, and it was a strange experience.
That's because LA's whatever.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. It was interesting, but back to Kawhi and Paul George. I think this is the year that they will, or at the end of the year, they'll go to prove themselves as the best duo in LA.
Yeah, that I
But
don't think is a question.
yeah, but I have them ranked at number 2 just because they're not going to play 82 games together. There's no chance of it, and they're going to be feeling each other out for the first couple games or playing, in limited minutes. So for that, we can't give them the number 1 spot quite yet.
And the rest of the team is so damn good.
They really are. Patrick Beverley's out there again on Instagram or Twitter videos talking about how pumped he is for the year, and literally the guy looks in game mode already.
He's always in game mode.
They're gonna be awesome to watch. Yeah, I agree. All right, so quick step back for a second. At number 3, I did have Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. We kind of glossed over that real quick, but I will give our boys a shout out. I have them ranked that high over CJ and Dame. And just below Kawhi and Paul George, because I think Ben Simmons is going to put up an MVP caliber year. Joel Embiid is going to do what he has done for the last couple of years. So they're going to be a pleasure to watch. Anyone outside the city of Philadelphia would call us a great league pass team, whether they want to admit it or not. But they're evolving together and learning to play off one another better and better each year. And I'm thrilled to have them ranked this high, and might be a little bit of a homer in me for having them ranked that high. But anyway, back to the rankings here, or your rankings here. Who do you have for number 1?
So I have Zion and every league pass watcher ever at number 1. That will probably be the greatest league pass team all year, and rightfully so. No, I have. So I have. Did you have them at 6 or 7? I can't remember. I have Harden and Westbrook.
I had them at number 7.
So you had that. That's why I laughed. All right, that's what I thought. Yeah. So I took this, and again, I had, just like you, I had sat here and I typed this list out so many different times, and I was like, nothing like made sense to me. Like, you know how like when you listen to a really good like old album, you're like, oh yes, I know why track 1 was 1 and track 7 was track 7. It makes sense right now. Well, I couldn't get from 1 to 7 on this list and it ever make fluent sense to me. But this was the closest that I got. But I just think that both players are so dynamic offensively and have such an ability to just dominate on their own, that even though I don't trust them to be good teammates, even though I don't trust them to be good teammates to one another or to anyone else on that roster for that matter, I think if you're looking for just pure dynamic duo, just insane interest and team to follow on League Pass, like that to me is like must see TV. Like that's like the killer bees in the mid 2000 or early 2000s over there in Houston. Like when 3-4-5 comes up, 2-3-4-5 comes up there, you fucking watch. That's like what those guys are with the ball in their hands. So for me, they are getting number 1.
Okay, I'm a little surprised to hear you say that, but as we were going through the list, I mean, and as you laughed at the beginning, I kind of knew that's where you were going. Aren't you a little worried about their personalities together, and more so than LeBron and AD?
No. And that I had already forgotten that you had said it. So I read a lot of the same articles and stuff, and I've seen a lot of their. It doesn't seem like they're on 2 separate media tours for themselves, by the way.
It absolutely does, and I forgot that they were teammates for most of the time when I was reading.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm just buying into conspiracies all over sports right now because of this AD situation, but I feel like this is 100% like there is a mastermind like at the top of this pyramid right now controlling both of these particular narratives for each of these players and each of these interviews and each of these marketing schemes. And I feel like they're going to come in because they seem so like, I'm pissed off. I'm basically an MVP candidate, and writers come in with this preconceived notion as to who that guy's going to be. James Harden. Russell Westbrook's never had a fucking team, blah, 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 whatever. They each have been preaching me, and this has been what's held me back. This is what's held my story back and my greatness back. They haven't really sat there and said, outside of Westbrook's, pretty much right after the trade, had went through where, he was like, oh, I feel like I'm going to, be at home here, and this is going to be the most complete team and roster that I've had the opportunity to kind of go deep with. You haven't really heard much of that, and I think it's all a fucking act. I think that they're like playing Uno together in each other's apartments, like every night, just hanging out, just drinking beers and barbecuing, because food's fantastic.
People in LA don't eat barbecue, but
well, they're wrong.
they eat salads.
They eat air if it's not too salty.
So yeah, I did kind of have that thought too, because LA is the hotspot for everyone in the NBA to play in the off season together.
Yep.
I definitely think the two of them have been grinding in the gym and getting a bunch of time together over the last couple of years, and now they're just playing a little stronger together. I'm just worried about the egos now, and I'm falling for the media trap, or whoever this social media guru is that's leading all these campaigns out there. They're just confusing me and getting one over on me here. But I'm just not buying them as dynamic teammates. But I can tell you who I am buying, Shane, and that's LeBron and AD. I think they are the best duo in the NBA. LeBron averaged 28 last year with no one on the team. AD averaged
with no one on the team. MCW averaged like 21.
Well, he's not a real basketball player anymore, you know that. But so AD averaged, I don't even know how many points when he decided to show up to a game. They're both disciples of Rich Paul at this point. I have to imagine it's similar to how we just talked about James Harden and Russell Westbrook, are sitting in backyards drinking beers together, laughing about how everyone thinks they're enemies.
AD and LeBron are just sitting there trying to, what the hell's the word I'm thinking for right now? Whatever, Taco Tuesday. What's the word?
Awkward Taco Tuesdays together.
Well, awkward Taco Tuesdays is the thing. Damn. This would have been so much better if I was a person that could think of words at midnight. But apparently I'm not. Continue.
I am excited to watch them play, and I think it's really, really easy for us to forget that LeBron is one of the best basketball players of all time. AD is probably the most dominant big man of this era right now, of the last couple of years, which is really hard to say, and I feel weird in saying that because there are quite a few good big men out there, but I think he's the best one, and seeing the two of them play together with that kind of athleticism is going to be a sight to watch. I think they're also both LeBron's nearing the end of his career, but AD is still kind of at his peak as long as the guy can stay healthy. I think they're going to play off each other really well. LeBron's going to take over as the leader, but kind of just let AD handle himself and do whatever he needs to do. I'm very, very excited to watch these two play. And also, I knew it would piss you off by picking LeBron to be one of the best two players in the NBA, or one of the best duos in the NBA. Excuse me.
Look, I can't totally, I'm not even mad about it because there's not a whole hell of a lot I can do to argue the point there. Trademark was the word I was looking for, but I'm a person who can't think of things, but just trademark things that people have been saying for fucking years and making him think that, yeah, those two are assholes.
It got denied.
That got denied. I'm pretty sure Anthony Davis's unibrow thing got fucking denied when he tried doing it right out of college. These two are nuts. They're built for each other. And for that purpose, and for that reason, I 100% can see why you put them at number one. With everything in me, I can't. I still just don't believe in LeBron as a teammate, and I don't believe in him as a non-cancerous entity of any team. So we'll see how it goes. We will. I'm going to be really pissed off if you're right, though. I'm going to watch so many games on League Pass, though. It's going to be absurd.
I hope I am not right. I really hope I'm not. I think us both agreeing about Kawhi and Paul George is a very solid opinion. Which brings me to, I want to add two more quick points here. Number one, how do you see this list changing in 2 years from now, or 1 year? Because fuck it, everyone might.
I was going to say
in 2 years.
2 years.
Can't go that far ahead.
Yeah, can't go that far. I would say, based on how Brooklyn is the wild card to me, because Brooklyn could go anywhere from number 1 to number 7, or remaining at number 7. If KD comes back healthy and is I guess they can't really be number 1. I think Kawhi and Paul George are ultimately going to be the number 1 duo for as long as they remain in LA together. I think that each of their contracts end at the same time, so I don't really know what the hell's going on over there. But Brooklyn to me is the one that can have the biggest jump on my personal list, because if KD comes back healthy and if Kyrie can take, just ease up on his just inability to be a human in the NBA that interacts well with teammates and a city, if they can be happy and coexist in Brooklyn, that duo to me has the potential to slide up 6 spots and take number 2. I think Ben and Joe, if Ben takes the jumps that necessary and Joe stays healthy, I could see them sliding up to number 2 or 3 and 5 from 5 on my list. So those are the big ones, and I do think that the Lakers ultimately, I think by next year, I would say 4. I could see them sliding back a few spots, depending on how LeBron continues to age. But what do you got?
Yeah, I agree. I think LeBron and AD do have a lot to lose in the next year, depending on how their antics in LA turn out. And LeBron
It's also nothing around them.
older.
Like, they're each going to have to play so much.
Yeah.
They don't have the luxury that George and Kawhi do.
No, I think that they're going to play. I mean, let's hope that they're managed properly, or not hope that they're managed properly. Fuck the Lakers. But I think that there's a real opportunity for them to have to overplay in the regular season and not be well rested, like Kawhi and Paul George are going to have the luxury of. I think Simmons and Embiid are just, and same with CJ and Dame. I think they're all firmly planted in this list for the next couple years. I don't see any too big of changes there. The biggest one that I have that could actually hop into the list. Now, this is one that I wanted to run by you, and I know you're not going to like it. Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic. They're the weirdest duo in the NBA to me. They're 2 tall, unathletic white guys who might just be a match made in heaven.
If they were coached by Greg Popovich and wore Spurs uniforms, they would have been number 1 on this list.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know what's going to happen to them in Dallas. I could see them sliding up and being, putting together some weird games, or just having a weird amount of success together. Still not making the playoffs and still sucking, but just next year maybe getting another piece or something to help them out, letting them hop up on the list, and seeing Harden and Westbrook fall off or punch each other in the face or something there.
Something absurd.
Yeah, but I think it's not out of the realm of possibility to, when we're talking about this a year from now, to only have, 3 of these duos on the list, or 4 of them, changing up a couple spots, which would be interesting.
The only other one that I had, and I toyed with this one as is, like right now, I would say they're close to the top 10, probably like somewhere in that 9, 10, or 11-ish range, is the Joker and Jamal Murray. I think Jamal Murray's really, really good. He's not the sexiest of names. The Joker's great. And I kind of count him as 1.5 humans anyway. But I think the wild card here is if Porter Jr. can get healthy and be what he was originally envisioned being when he was originally going to be drafted. He was talked about being a 1, 2, 3 pick overall. I can't remember where he ended up going. I think 14 to Denver, somewhere in that range. I actually legitimately think as early as next year, like that could be a dangerously good duo.
Yeah, I agree. I thought about having Jamal Murray and Jokic on the list as well, but I just couldn't do it. The only thing that would change my mind to think about them would be if Jokic comes out and has an MVP year, or Porter comes out and has a crazy year, and they hop onto this list too. But I do think, I mean, we're doing it now. We're underrating how good Jokic is and how much of an impact he has on that team and how good Jamal Murray is and how good the Nuggets are in general. Quick side note, I was in Denver for the first time ever 2 weeks or over Labor Day weekend. Great city. I liked it there. None of the citizens knew that I had picked them to win the West, which I was a little upset about.
That's a shame.
Figured they would be, naming drinks after me and stuff and calling me a local hero, but that did not happen. So yeah, I mean, Denver's a great city. I could see them hopping on this list, but I am definitely glad that the NBA has entered the era of big twos as opposed to big threes. So as we near the end of our show here, we're going to go to our favorite segment and end with Zhaire's stash. So we have, we talked a little bit about it before, but we have, might be my favorite pick for Zhaire's stash of the week. So I'm going to present it to you in traditional fashion here because I think this is a good one, and I like to keep things traditional a little bit at the end of the show. So there was a picture that came out of Dwight Howard this week. Not to be confused with Thanos, because he also compared himself to Thanos. If you have not seen this picture of Dwight Howard, please go and Google Dwight Howard crazy hair and click on one of the first or second articles and see what this guy is looking like. He has. How did you describe his haircut before, Shane?
So if anyone ever saw Perfect Score, it was a terrible movie in the early 2000s, but another former high school pick, not unlike Dwight Howard, Darius Miles, drafted I think by the Clippers originally. He plays a basketball athlete who is a dumbass in that movie Perfect Score, and his hair literally looks like someone took a weed whacker to his cornrows. And I would say that's not unlike what Dwight Howard's hair looks like right now with bleach. It's fucking bizarre.
It is crazy, and I would go as far as saying that's an insult to Darius Miles in that movie for what Dwight Howard looks like right now. He also has some of the strangest facial hair I've ever seen. It's a disconnected mutton chop that goes through the middle of his cheek with a goatee. And you got to believe this guy went into the barber, who he probably paid handsomely because he's Dwight Howard and he's extremely wealthy, and told the guy exactly what he wanted. And this is what he got. So I'm going to ask you, Shane, do you think that Dwight Howard is better than Zhaire Smith, or is better looking than Zhaire Smith? Excuse me.
So the NBA's seventh best player, future seventh best player, most handsome player in the NBA, Zhaire Smith, absolutely takes this one over ugly Dwight Howard. I think Dwight Howard snapped his fingers and lost half his talents and his entire damn mind. He's absurd. That guy is nuts. So he's going full Jeremy Lin over there with the hair. We're done. We're done with Dwight Howard. That's a no.
Yeah, I agree. And like Team USA, we have given Dwight Howard far too much airtime on this podcast for a guy who is just not a good basketball player anymore and is doing crazy things with his look. I mean, on top of the fact that he's got the tiniest head in basketball and the widest shoulders.
It's so weird.
It doesn't line up well. Even putting him in the same realm as our boy Zhaire is an insult to Zhaire. We apologize, buddy. Don't worry about it. You're still the best looking player in basketball. So as we truly get to the end of our show here, Shane, do you have any closing thoughts for
me? So this week, I'm going to challenge everyone because we are nearing that time where you're unable to get outside comfortably, or at least in my fucking neighborhood, not over you or you in LA, but most of our listeners are here in Philadelphia. Go play pickup basketball, and I need every single one of you to rep every one of the items that we decided should be the new swag-ish items of the NBA this season. So if you're white, we don't care. Buy a do-rag. Buy some cool cape-looking shoes like Elton John wears, whatever the hell they are. You get yourself well, you can't afford Rolexes. I think if our listeners could afford Rolexes, we would be making significantly more money on this podcast. But get yourself like a fake watch.
Yeah.
Wear that out there. We don't care.
The bigger the better. Bigger the better.
Yeah, absolutely. As absurd as it can be. Like, absolutely do that. A People's Champ belt, if you want to throw that one in there too. And then roll out some hipster goggles. Am I missing anything here? What am I missing? I feel like I'm missing one of yours.
No, a bandana, but you know what? The do-rag takes precedent over that.
But we can combine that.
Oh, baby.
Bandana in place of the headband that goes on top of the do-rag. That's it. So I need every one of our listeners to go out there, play a pickup game of basketball, go full white men can't jump on you, go stand by a park and wait for one of the cool kids to invite you to go play. But you need to look like something that is just straight out of both the mix of the 70s and, I don't know, the 2058s, somewhere in there. That's what we're aiming for here.
I agree. If we get one picture of someone dressed up like that, I will be a very happy man. You can tweet that at me, SP Novik. You can tweet that at Shane as well, at Shane_Mead, correct?
Yeah.
And you can tweet that at the ANYP podcast show, Twitter. So we're going to leave you with that one. Shane, I am going to ask you one favor before we sign off here. Can you do the ad read for me with our friends from Just Food? I want to make sure we give them a shout out because they're great and you should all hear about them.
You should. They are fantastic. So you should probably have Just Food cater your every event, especially if you're playing pickup basketball and looking ridiculous. You're going to want some solid refreshments and some solid food for nourishment there. It is Just Food, 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. Treat yourself. Take it home. Visit our guy over there, Asian Rob. He will provide you with foods that you can pronounce, food that you can't pronounce, food that tastes delicious, and food that still tastes fucking delicious. Just Food, 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. Treat yourself. Take it home.
All right, Shin, thank you for the assist there and doing the ad read for me. I'm going to let the Jack Dolls play us out, and we will talk to you guys all next week.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, my lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.